of the environment, well, first of all, I think we all should give credit to Barbara Boxer for being a champion in this country on that issue. And the fact that there are deniers in Washington, D.C. who are denying the science is to our collective peril. The reality is, I believe California is the canary in the coal mine on this issue. And we are also a leader for the country in the laws that we have passed around cap and trade and the need for dedication to renewable energy. But we know this, climate change is real, and it is caused by human beings. This issue of climate change, our drought, water being a precious resource, the reality that in the short run, wars will not be fought over oil but water, is real. And California should and can be the leader on the environment. And then equality. So I was very proud as your Attorney General to refuse to defend a patently unconstitutional law, which is what Prop 8 was. And I will say, going forward, there is more work to be done on that issue in terms of our LGBT brothers and sisters, and there is work to be done in other areas of civil rights that are front and center as battles for us. Voting Rights Act, which the Supreme Court gutted. Choice. Can you, for any of you who saw it, and I'm sure many of us in the room did, the president of Planned Parenthood testing before Congress, being cross-examined like she is a criminal. We are still under attack in terms of preserving the right women should have to make decisions about their own reproductive health. Let's be clear about this equality civil rights issue. It is well documented in developing countries and our own. A society that denies a woman an ability to make decisions about her own reproductive health is usually a society that also denies a woman an ability to have access to economic health and well-being. These issues are related. Of the front and center civil rights equality issue of our time is the issue of immigration. I listened to the rhetoric coming out of Washington, D.C., and I find it to be so extremely wrong and misdirected and misinformed. What they have allowed is they have allowed a conversation to take place as though it were legitimate, in which they have conflated criminal justice policy with immigration policy, as though they're the same thing. They are not. They're two different policy issues with their own variables, pathologies, factors, and goals. They have allowed us to craft this conversation in a way that has been uninformed and has been evocative of fear instead of progress. You know, and there is no question, there will be that all too rare and extremely tragic case, like the case we experienced in San Francisco where a young woman is no question. In that case, when the evidence proves that guy guilty, lock him up for as long as we can. But the idea that we would craft public policy for 11 million plus people around our collective outrage around one man's conduct is irresponsible. I have seen crime. I have seen criminals. An undocumented immigrant is not a criminal, and we have to correct course on that question. And then finally, on the issue of engagement. We live in a dangerous world. There is no question. I have spent a lot of my time, especially as your Attorney General, fighting transnational criminal organizations, with a particular emphasis on human trafficking, and guns and drugs. ISIS is an organized criminal organization that profits from oil and rape and murder and terrorism, and they have to be eliminated. There is no question. I was invited after the tragedy in San Bernardino. The next day, the law enforcement leaders there asked me to go down, and I went to San Bernardino, and I toured the tragedy, the scene of that crime, the scene of that violence. Unspeakable, unthinkable what happened there. We have seen the images of Paris. In fact, the only American that died in Paris during that tragic incident was a Californian. She was actually a student at Long Beach, Cal State Long Beach. So I say this, let's always remember the image of San Bernardino. Let us remember the image of Paris. But let's not allow those images to cause us to also remember a 3-year-old being washed up on a Mediterranean beach. We must lead in a way that emphasizes engagement, bringing our allies together to work with us on a productive solution. And let's be clear about what it means to lead with strength. I believe it means leading with our values and being smart in terms of what we know we want to achieve in terms of peace and security. The fight for justice, the fight for civil rights, the fight for equality must be fought and won with each generation. That it is the very nature of this fight for justice and equality that our wins will not be permanent. So we must be vigilant. It's the very nature of it. And I think the second point then was, so folks, don't get dispirited. Don't throw up your hands when it's time to roll up our sleeves. Let's rededicate ourselves with vigor and not ever feel like it can't be done or it's impossible. It's just the very nature of it. You know, your nails grow, you don't say, oh my goodness, I have to cut my nails. You just cut them. It's the very nature of this thing that we have to keep rededicating ourselves. And when I'm looking at this room, I know there is no shortage of that here in California and in Ventura County. So I want to thank you all very much. Thank you.